EdibleSpirit Hour.
Greetings, angels. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Love, deliciousness, salutations even from this, the EdibleSpirit Hour. Welcome back. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode. We love you so freaking much. It's absurd. Thrilled to have you here for another episode. We have an amazing guest tonight with all sorts of wonderful things to share with us. We'll get to them in just a moment. Giselle is ready, willing, and able. But here we are, checking in with you, right? Bullshit free on the 20th of December, the day before the solstice. So, we have some food stuff that we want to share with you today. We always start with a little bit of an FME update, just letting you know where we're at, both cosmically and edibly, right? Spiritually and edibly. We are at the 20th. Tomorrow is the solstice. Tomorrow's the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. But as of the 17th and the 19th, yesterday, and 2 days before that, Saturn and Jupiter have entered Aquarius. It is the beginning of a new era. It's the beginning of a new age, right? Okay. There's all sorts of stuff you can read out there about, and that we've spoke to you about how this only happens every, 20 years, Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Now it's worked its way into the lexicon that as of like 3 days, the past 3 days, that, oh no, it's really Jupiter-Saturn conjunction was what the Star of Bethlehem was. Could also be a harbinger of a great solar flash, solar flare that short circuits the entire internet and, shatters all of our Aquarian sort of technological interfaces. But even if that happens, remember, we create technologies in order to remember skills that we possess but have forgotten. So there is already a interconnectivity between humans. There is a supraneural network that doesn't need Ethernets or Wi-Fi or 5G to transmit truth and connectivity and love and information and experience and awareness. That's the true essence of Aquarius, right? And the Aquarian era. Meanwhile, it's still happening tomorrow, right? It's still happening tomorrow. So something's happening in the sky tomorrow at the exact same fucking moment that the sun enters Capricorn. So remembering that solstices and equinoxes are the 4 points on the circle of the year by which we measure our year, by which we measure time, right? When the sun moves, what's it called? 90 degrees at a time. And when it changes, when it hits one of those cross quarters, big shit happens. Why? It's observable. Solstice, summer solstice, highest point in the sky in the Northern Hemisphere of the sun. Winter solstice, lowest point in the sky, equinox right in the middle. So you don't need a super powerful telescope to see that. You don't need any telescope to see. You just have to trace and notice over time. So we know that there's sort of a rising and a falling of energy. It mirrors growth cycles, right? The natural laws of creation, processing, manifestation. So these moments are significant because they are at, 12, 3, 6, and 9 on the clock. But they are when the sun enters into a new season. There's when the sun enters into a new cardinal sign. So cardinal signs, Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, and I'm forgetting the other one. Capricorn, Cancer, Libra. I bet you anything that someone in YouTube is remembering. Hi, Sue. Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, Aries. We'll get there. I knew we'd get there. Those are cardinal signs. So they have a popping off energy about them. They initiate something. They start something new. So this is the beginning of winter. So it's like the beginning of a long, slow descent into darkness. But in actuality, it's not. It's the beginning. It's the most darkness, shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's actually the beginning of the return of the light. So all of the intentions that we seed around the time of the solstice have to do with going in in order to reveal the light, right? Hunkering down in order to expand, hibernating in order to emerge in the spring. And it's part of the natural flow of things, America, that sometimes growth is eternal growth is not possible. Eternal growth is only possible for the soul, for the spirit, for that which is not confined by forms. But if something's confined by a form, or if it exists on this earth, it's subject to certain laws, rules, and regulations, aside from governments and states and all of that stuff. Literally, simple. Plant the seed, water it, nourish it, tend it, watch it grow, trim it back, cut some stuff, harvest, save some for later. And now is when you got to go in and eat your jelly that you've been making all June and July and August and September and October, November, throughout the summer and the fall. Natural cycles of growth. The theory is, P.S., wildfires, right? Indigenous wisdom has taught people who actually know what they're doing to handle land by doing controlled burns, right? Burning things back, or not putting something in one sort of topographical area and yes, putting something in one of the other areas. So natural cycles, they're natural cycles. This is a big one. This is when we enter into winter, so it carries the energy of simplification, of streamlining, of stripping down. Not because you have to, which is kind of what so many of us have gone through during Corona, during this COVID crisis, is an not desired stripping away of things, right? Like, I don't want to have to sacrifice all these things, but I will if it's what I have to do. But winter time says you didn't really need it anyway. It's possible for you to exist with a room, some food, some warmth, some light, right? So that you can read or communicate, or like just very simple, very austere. That's what the solstice encourages us to ponder. If it's the longest night of the year, shortest day, what are you going to do with yourself, right? What do you actually have within as all the trees lay fallow, as there's no more fruit dropping, right? What do you have then? You have the light, you have the consciousness that's within you. So that's happening tomorrow. Would suggest pausing and observing at some point just the sort of heaviness of the moment, the shortness of the light, but then also the return. We haven't celebrated officially like Christmas or Hanukkah or any of the big holidays. We've only celebrated the solstice and the Yule for the last, really since for as long as we've been doing spiritual work. So since like 2008, 2008 celebrated the solstice and have kind of done that ever since. And it's a beautiful ceremony that we do, which is we do have a tree, but we hang the lights on it, but don't light it up. And then once the lights go down, once the sun sets, then we pause to honor the light within, honor how much abundance we have, even if it seems like we have nothing else, because we're breathing, because we have a mind, because we have a heart, because we have feelings, because we can do things with our mind and our heart and our feelings. It's a gift. It's a really, 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 really big fucking gift. So the theory is when you acknowledge that in the midst of the solstice, right, you are aware of how much you have and how little you need. So it's this beautiful time for just all those fucking crusty branches to just die and fall away, and to experience that simplification by choice. And then after pausing in the darkness of the space and honoring the light within, and the longest night and the shortest day of the year, there's little candles all over the house that we've placed, and we light one big candle and then go off, just light all those little candles and just sit in that space and just fucking meditate on how good the light is, how much love you have, how much is available to you even when it seems like you have nothing. Super important. That's tomorrow. And then you get very excited about Jupiter conjunct Saturn in Aquarius. Like, ring the bell. You might not be feeling it super, super joyfully yet, because it's, this is going to be some era defining astrology. But if you notice, do you notice even just like a little bit more quickness, a little bit more lightness, even if your body and your emotions and your mind haven't quite caught up? Do you notice just that little bit more spaciousness. I've also even felt in the last few days with Saturn and Jupiter, just this feeling of like, whoa, whoa. I can't believe that like this relationship has turned its tables, or like, I can't believe I never saw this thing about this person, because we've been in the midst of so much Capricorn, 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 literally with our faces buried in rocks and dirt. And now it's like, and I can like look down and see the dirt, and I'm like, holy shit, there was doo-doo in that dirt. And I was like rubbing my face on it for no good reason. Why? What was that about? You know, so clarity, 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 and connectivity. All of that is afoot. But the last thing we wanted to leave you with was just this idea of, what does it mean in the microcosm? What does it mean in our day-to-day to be dealing with Saturn and Jupiter conjunct each other in Aquarius? So Aquarius will give us an awareness of our connection to others. Some people like that and feel very open-hearted and altruistic. Some people don't really like that. It's like, you know, in theory, we all want to save the world, but in order to save the world, you then have to like go out and deal with the world. You know, maybe you don't like crowds. It's like, I would strongly encourage you to not become like a grassroots protester activist if you don't like crowds. And yet you might feel a call to service at a time like this, where you actually feel that awareness of your connection to others. And you're like, I can't leave my family just hanging out there, right? So Aquarius is going to make us feel that sort of quickening, that connectivity, that awakening vibes, revolutionary, but also honoring tradition, but also revolutionary, but also like, like we're humans, but also like, what can we do? What can we blow up? Like, what can we have fun with? What can we do, right? Innovation, forward thinking, future leaning, all of that stuff has to do with Aquarius. Big picture. Microcosm in your life, Saturn is the teacher, Saturn is the parent, Saturn is the constrictor, the confiner, the enforcer of lessons, right? Pluto changes you. Pluto is enforced change, whether you want it or not. Saturn is enforced lessons, whether you want it or not. You might not learn, but you would probably be better off if you just did. Learn the lesson, make the change, right? Whether you want to or not. Jupiter is all about growth and expansion. So we're growth, expansion, benevolence, blessings, gifts, love, juice, spirit, you know, connection. Not even connection. Limitlessness, beyond connection, more than connection to everything, right? But even that's Pisces, connection to everything all at once. Jupiter is the process of expansion that makes it possible for you to become connected to everything, okay? So we're learning something about hard fucking lessons and big fucking growth. So that's the question to ask yourself right now as we approach this solstice tomorrow. So it's a big observable moment that's going to amplify the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction into the farthest corners of the universe. And the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is going to amplify the powers of the solstice accordingly. So what do you ask yourself? You ask yourself, what lessons do I need to learn that I'm resisting? How do I want to grow? Right? And what lessons do I need to learn in order to grow? How do I need to grow in order to learn? Saturn's usually like the thing you don't really feel like dealing with, but you have to deal with anyway. Everyone's got that on their plate. And that might just be connectivity. It might be finances, might be love, might be relationships, might be hope, might be daily practice, routine, healing, knowledge, awakening. Just where are you growing and where are you learning? Where do you not want to learn? Where do you not want to grow? So there's this question of like, pick your poison here, which is like, you're going to have to learn some hard lessons in order to grow. Or you could just decide to stay the same and not grow and resist growth. And then, you know, Saturn will probably break your bones or make it feel like your bones are broken. So strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to open, expand, and pay attention to what are the lessons that I'm learning that I don't want to be learning, or what are the lessons that I need to learn, maybe if you're really fucking evolved and woke, and what are the ways in which I'm growing that I really want to grow, right? And what do I need to learn in order to grow? How do I need to grow in order to learn? See? Microcosm of Saturn. What do we say? So pumped for the growth. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you guys are here with me. We love you so much. Okay. Let me just see. Is there anything I can share with you vis-a-vis okay, well, we're just going to share just a little something with you, which is what we're literally making tonight. It's very exciting. We had to do we went to this amazing Asian grocery store that had some of the most incredible ingredients. And, we're upstate now, so don't always have access to those amazing, good Asian ingredients. So we picked up, let's make sure, is it working? Zoom, we're sharing it with you. So we picked up some tteokbokki, which is Korean rice sticks. Oh my God, I'm so excited to make these. Very simple. You boil them with some water, and then you add some carrots and mushrooms and onions, which are on the bottom. I think I'm gonna actually saute these first and then add them to the boiling rice sticks in just a moment. Then you add some cabbage and scallions and let those simmer and cook. And then you add this delicious sauce, which does have MSG in it. I thought everybody was freaked out by MSG, but not everybody. And there's not a lot, just a tiny little bit. And that's the tteokbokki sauce. This is powdered sauce that you can actually add to stuff, but we're not going to use that. And then we also got this cod, that's wild caught cod, and we marinated it in a combination of soy sauce, sugar, and sesame oil. That's it. That's all. We're going to roast it for about 20 to 25 minutes at 400 degrees. And it's going to get crispy and kind of caramelizing. We may take some of that sauce on the bottom and baste it with it. But yeah, that's what we're working with here. Anything else? Oh, this bitter green tea Kit Kats. Fuck me update. They were so good. Oh my gosh, the bitter green tea Kit Kats. Moment of silence for the bitter green tea Kit Kats. Okay. Meanwhile, let's bring in our guest. We love you guys. Let's get Giselle in here. Giselle.
Hello.
Hello, my
Yay.
Yay. Oh, so excited to have you.
I'm so happy to be here, baby.
Welcome to the EdibleSpirit Hour.
Yay.
So this is a special place where we low-key set out to prove that everyone's a healer, right? It's not going to be challenging with you because we like to talk about the different ways that we can define healing. We know healing is not fixing what's broken. We know healing is not correcting what's wrong, right? Some people think healing is energy work. Some people think it's readings. Some might argue that healing involves curating an immaculate space, filling it with objects of power, and opportunities for marvelous, marvelous transformation, all of which I've had in your space and in your store. So we start by asking people, how are you healing? And I want to know how you're healing personally, but what I actually want to know first is, how's it going? How's business? What's up in the pandemic? Have people been shopping? Like, tell me about your moment. What's the store like? What's the space like? I haven't been there in so long.
Amazingly, the space has been wonderful, and so many people have been incredibly supportive. And so I'm very grateful for that. I love what you're saying. I want to address, first of all, what you were opening with as far as like healing and like the definition or the different ways to like approach it. And I very much believe that we are all our own greatest healers, right? And our own personal relationships with that space are constantly evolving and meeting us where we're at. So I have this analogy of like a garden, right? And so we are like pulling the weeds and we're tilling the soil and we're praying to the earth and we're giving gratitude and we don't exactly, there's a lot of things that we can do in preparation and in honoring of our process, which I kind of see as the analogy of working the soil. But we don't know what seeds nature is going to bring through in the wind, or what's going to be given to us, what seeds are going to be given to us to plant. But we can pull the weeds and we can water and we can, prepare the soil as best we can for when these seeds do, take root. And so,
so important preparatory work in this capacity and being ready. And I love what you're saying about preparatory too, because so many people dive headlong into healing and they try to rush, when like tending the soil is a lifelong process. You're never done learning, you're never done healing, you're never done tending your freaking soil. So you might as well start there as opposed to just waiting for a big, confetti parade of transcendence.
Absolutely. And it's usually the way that I see it is what healing is to me is bringing awareness, is creating a space to bring awareness
100%.
to our own thinking, to our own feeling, to our relationships with ourselves, with each other, with the earth. So it's kind of like figuring out ways to clear the channels in order to get to the truth, or as close as we can to the truth of what that feels like and what that looks like, our relationship with bringing awareness into our lives and creating the space for that.
I think it's really important what you're describing too. We had Nicole, who was on several weeks ago. She does this practice, talks about it a lot, called neti, which is when you describe all the things that you're not. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that. And then this moment of poise, whatever's left is you, right? That's you. So, and I think it's this beautiful thing that we forget sometimes. And I love what you're saying. We are our own greatest healer, because people sometimes forget that a really good healer is going to guide you is not going to give you the revelation, is going to just be with you and be present with you and call your awareness to whatever needs to be looked at in that given moment together so that you draw the conclusion. Right?
Absolutely. Right. I think it's really key what you were saying about it's not right or wrong or good or bad. The process. I rather look at it like accepting it for what it is, and then asking for the wisdom and the guidance to gain the nourishment from what it is that's being presented.
And awareness doesn't contain judgment. Awareness is just awareness. And then when you intend to heal, right, to make loving choices or to refine your awareness, to see the truth more clearly, then you can kind of move forward, right? But without gumming up the works, or without getting in your way, or without stopping the flow of things.
There's a little more space for observation. And sometimes that observation is difficult. Sometimes we don't want to look at that and we don't want to see that. It's easier to blame other people or situations, predicaments that are in the world. And it's not to say that those things aren't happening, but it's, taking full responsibility of our well-being and how we choose to process it and respond is in our power.
Absolutely. And how it's coming in right now too with Saturn Jupiter conjunction, about to go down tomorrow, right? Saturn being how did you just put it? It made me think of it. Saturn being, the thing where it's like, you don't necessarily want to take responsibility for your growth. People don't necessarily want to be mature or want to be responsible, but Saturn is the planet that comes and moves through our chart to literally say, hey, look at that. Look at that, because there's something to learn there. Whereas Chiron moves through and says, hey, look at that. You might be able to heal something here. Maybe you can expand something or transform something. Saturn is not necessarily offering you roses. Saturn's just like, look at the shit, deal with it, own it. And then the minute you bring awareness to something undesirable with love and without judgment, it fucking transforms.
It does, and it's like how we see in nature. Like sometimes we have to hold things. If we're taking responsibility, that means we're holding it. We're expanding our capacity to hold things, and it kind of goes in with the it's really important, I think, with everything being so dualistic in the world right now. I feel like for me, it's important to remember that that they're interconnected, that they're not separate from the other. So the pain and the transcendence, the fear and the fortification of spirit, all of these things that are like seemingly opposites are actually interconnected, and one can't exist without the other. And so I think our capacity that we have to hold things and the way that we think about it, that's why I love what you were saying about it's not bad or good, it's everything, and it's like, I think that as a collective, our capacity to hold everything is really one of the keys for me, as far as like my own personal growth of what that means,
Well,
in my personal
because
and in the world.
of course, because that is, to me, I believe that love is somehow connected to the core of the universe. And I believe that love is fundamentally inclusive. By its very nature, love doesn't leave anyone out. Love is, right? Love is.
Right.
So why would, what practice could possibly lead to only holding some things and only holding some beings and not holding others?
Right.
Right? It could be a practice, but it's not love. It's not love. So sometimes that desire to hold everything can become overwhelming for people, but sometimes love also means knowing when to put something down.
For sure. And that's not to say that just because we can't hold it doesn't mean that we cannot have clear, direct communication and boundaries of where we draw the line energetically and, physically.
I just, it just hits me right now that there's so many other ways that I want to go in this direction, but speaking with you over the years, as I've known you, as I've gotten to work with you in the space and be around you, you just drop some truth sometimes that just like, like stops you in your track. And I want to know, who taught you? Who are your teachers? Who do you treasure? Tell me something about your lineage, or who have you learned from? I know you care so much about the land and you use these beautiful farming analogies. Like, who are your wise ones? Who are your wisdom keepers?
Well,
where does all of this magic come from?
Well, I find that I feel like I'm not able to talk about anything unless I've understood it in my own personal, like in my heart, right?
Yeah.
If I've understood it and I've sat with it, and I feel like I've asked for the wisdom and the nourishment and the a different perspective or whatever, it always comes if you ask for it, and that's one thing I'm realizing. And that's part of my practice, that, if I'm having a hard time, or if something is very difficult, to sit with it and to ask for those things, to ask for that guidance, that wisdom, that, and it might sometimes not come right away, but it always comes, and it's always very specific, and you can recognize it, that it's the direct response to what you were asking for.
It has a quality to it, right? Like a specific zhuzh.
Right. And so having gone through those things, like certain things, like I feel like it's a process. So you then apply it to your life, apply this wisdom. And there's a lot of like repatterning. It's work,
Absolutely.
It's a lot
That's
of
the practice.
Really like listening to your own inner dialogue, like reframing things, flipping things, So after I've done all that with certain topics and certain things, which like we can say grief, somebody passing away, we can say, I've gone through divorce, like heartbreak, we can say like our relationships with our children and our youth, our elderly, different things like this, and like major moments in life, or like having to let go, like losing a job, and all these things that we can relate to. The most difficult times in our lives are the moments that teach us the most. So we're all collectively in this moment. That's why it's such a powerful moment, because we're all becoming our own greatest teachers, for a reason,
Absolutely.
And so I just, like, to answer your question, I feel like a lot of what I share or speak of is through, I feel like I only feel comfortable speaking it if I've lived it, and if I've understood it, and if in that way I can express it. But you are a great example for me about, like, since I've met you, about like really honoring the moment and trusting in that moment, that if you're moving from the heart and you are trusting in your heart, and in the greater well-being of, of the moment, then we're led in a good way, And so before this, I was like, what can I talk about? I've had some downloads this week, and what would I love to share, with friends tuning in. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do what you embody. And that is just like being open to receive, And so I'm here with you in this moment, just open to receive.
It's so what I want to say here that I just think is so useful for me to hear, even as you're saying it, is just this reminder that we, you drop into your body, you drop into the moment, and you're like, yay, I'm in the moment. And then you're like, oh, fuck, all this stuff's out of alignment. I don't got to deal with all this stuff. Right. But it's because I am in my heart, you are in your heart. And from that point of view, we can tell the difference between love and not love, truth and not truth. And we were talking, I know we were having technical stuff in the beginning, but we were talking in the FME update at the very top of the show about sitting during the winter solstice, quiet enough, still enough, honoring the darkness, so that you recognize the abundance of what you have available to you. And I had to tie it on to what you just said, because you guys, it's the best time in the world to sit and ask your heart of hearts a question. Ask your ancestors a question. Ask your soul a question. Where do I go? What do I do? How do I love this person more? Or how do I change this situation? Or how do I break this cycle? And in the quiet of the winter solstice, the answer will come. Why? Because for 5, 10, 20 minutes, we are not just in autopilot. We're not just responding to our conditioning, being products of our past, moving forward. It's the hardest thing in the world to exist in the present moment, but not because it's actually hard, just because we're so used to doing anything and everything but that.
Totally. And sometimes, it doesn't have to get so fancy and crazy and this and that. Like I appreciate ritual and I appreciate all of it, but I also appreciate your own personal connection to, and the simplicity of just like lighting one candle and putting your favorite crystal with it, or maybe the elements that you are drawn to at the time.
Absolutely.
And just, and just open it up to, in a simple way, in a very direct way.
Absolutely. Well, and I also think the other thing is that people forget that like spirit doesn't want you to put someone else's stank on your magic. Spirit wants you to put your stank on your magic. So like that's why I called this world Edible Spirit, is because for so long I felt that like the delicious, flavorful, sabroso things that I love and do and want in my life are supposed to exist over here. And my spirit is supposed to exist over here, clean and clear. And at the end of the day, like, what kind of an idiot can cook as well as I do and isn't making like magical salts? You know what I mean? Like delicious flavor. So I'm even going through a process over the last several months since COVID took all of the other, bells and whistles away from my life and made me sit here going, what the fuck am I really, like, if someone were to say to me, you have an hour left to commit one more act of love before it's all over, I would either do a reading or I would probably just make you a snack. Full tea, I would probably just make you a snack and eat it with you. So I think everybody's got to honor, you can honor your ancestors, you can honor your own traditions, you can even honor other people's traditions as long as you come correct and don't just appropriate, as long as you're like, this is from a different tradition, let's experiment with this incense or whatever it is. I just want to say, it's like, you're really inspiring me to just remind everybody, like, it's better to do one thing or something than nothing at all. Better to, I just got an image for some reason of like, if you are a witch sitting in your college dorm and haven't been to an in-person class, since 2019, who's to say you're not allowed to do a potion in your Instant Pot? Like, why can't you do magic in the dorm bathroom? You know what I mean? Like fire hazards probably, but just we work with what we have. And I just wanted to tie it to that solstice moment of like, the solstice tells us we have nothing other than the light, and what fucking more do we need? You know?
Absolutely. Also, this moment of, you know, that the winter solstice, what is represented in nature, you know, all the leaves. I remember last time you did an AuraPic for me, and we had a great conversation afterwards about like the cycles of nature and the natural laws in this. And you had said something to me that stuck, was like when the leaves fall off the tree's not saying, hey, don't fall off, you know, come back. The tree's not clinging to the leaves, you know, and also, you know, and the tree goes bare, and the tree is naked, and the tree is cold, and the tree is being weighed down by the snow, and the tree, you know, and the tree is being moved in the 35-mile-an-hour winds, and the you know, and what is happening really? The tree's not dying. The tree is strengthening its roots. You know, the tree is fortifying. The tree is gathering that moisture that from the process. From the you know, and so it's kind of like what we're taught in nature, and that natural process is, you know, where we are in that moment in winter, our spirits and our souls, we feel, you know, more yin, more exposed, more like needing to kind of, you know, and perfect. So I always find it's beautiful to have to make that reference in our minds of like, you know, where we are at in the natural cycles of things.
Absolutely. And I love it because you're totally echoing some things that we said in the beginning, which I just love how it's because it's in the air, you guys. It's because it's really, this is what's up. This is what's happening. This is where we are. So really, really, really tomorrow during this solstice and during this great conjunction, really, really make the best of what you have. Really honor nothing, needing nothing, wanting nothing, having everything. Even if you have a cup of ramen and a hot water faucet, praise be the faucet, praise be the ramen. Start there, and then we become so much more vastly unlimited, and we get to work with the cycles of time because we're synchronizing with those cycles of time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to, maybe we can do this in a little way. I actually want to get your AuraPics started because, you know, time is just zooming by. So I'm going to share the screen here. I see we have a couple people who are waiting to jump in and maybe get a reading. So hang out, you guys. Stick with us. We'll be with you in a minute. But meanwhile, I'm going to jump in here and pull Giselle up. Giselle, what I would love is maybe while I'm doing the AuraPic with you, we can gather a couple little things. I don't know if you have anything from around the store that you want to. Great. So do you have them with you or okay, perfect. Wonderful. So let me actually just pull you up here.
To answer your question about the tradition and the lineage that I am learning from, and then the elder is a Witoto elder from the Amazon in Colombia, and so that is the lineage. Just to name and just to honor.
Thank you. And again, I wasn't gonna push because I was like, okay, well, she doesn't want to talk about her teachers. That's fine.
No, I did. I do.
What I was going to say is you must have really fucking amazing teachers because of the answer that you gave, which is that any teacher you have that makes you keep their name on your lips the minute someone asks you something, you know, it's like you want to just put a question mark there and go, okay, well, are you the teacher or are we the teacher, honey? Are we the teacher? Or is the teacher, does the teacher exist, honey? Talk to me. Okay, so I'm so into it. Funnily enough, okay, I got to share this with you just because I'm going to show you and then I'm going to jump back to you. So hold tight with what you got because I'm sharing your AuraPic with the world.
That's a funny pic.
Something really interesting with this, which is I never do these starlight swooshes. So I think there's something super interesting here, which I would just say to me feels like ET, extraterrestrial consciousness, speaking to you through ancestors. So I would just say if you've ever heard tell of your origins from the stars, it seems to me like tomorrow, if not tonight, but definitely tomorrow, is a good day for you to just remember that your openness doesn't just extend beyond the veil. It doesn't just extend beyond space and time to your ancestors and to all of your loved ones in spirit. Your connection actually extends through star portals, beyond galaxies, through interdimensional highways and super highways and whatever. And it's just really fun because I've literally never drawn this on someone's AuraPic. I've had ET connections, but this is very specific. This is them being like, look at the constellations and turn around until you feel like, oh, I'm gonna get a transition from over there. Or like, oh, is that home? Did I come down that little channel over there? So very innocent, very light, very playful. But then I would say, sit, open a big satellite dish to the star and sit with a notepad and maybe take dictation because you might get some really interesting stuff. Okay, so that's just off the bat. And then we go in here with, no, we don't want that. We want to just draw with you. Okay, so
would it be okay to run and get my charger really quick?
Oh yeah, please go get your charger. I'm going to do your AuraPic for a little bit. Go for it. Right now's the moment.
I'll be right back.
You're good. I'm just going to talk to the children about you. And again, what's lovely about this is that everybody's showing up for Giselle in sort of balls and bubbles. And what I see here is pink is usually spirit guides and ancestors. But again, this is this like row of ancestors in the front, but there's lineages, lines and lines and lines and lines and lines of ancestors that are behind Giselle. There is this guy showing up, which is indigo blue. Indigo blue is the color of teachers and ascended teachers, wise ones. And they're showing up over her left thigh. Interesting. Okay. And around the right hand. And then, interesting. Okay, we got a really, it's fun, you guys, because I know if you guys have been watching for a minute, you'll see like we get to have a wonderful, healing, lovely, juicy exchange with whomever's sitting for the AuraPic. But this one was actually a wham bam, thank you, ma'am, quickie wiki. So I'm going to share this with you, Giselle, because I already did the drawing. And I was like, wait a minute, is this it? Is there more? But no, Spirit's like, nope, this is it. We got a show to do, y'all. So we're going to talk about this with you. It's a very big one. So they were saying that the pink that's over there on the right side of the picture, but on the left side of your body, those are ancestor spirits. And the ancestor spirits are showing up very close to you because they're invested in you. They love you, guides and ancestors, right? But they're also showing more behind them. So there's this theory, this feeling here that your guides and your ancestors are watching you and they're close and they're aiding you in fulfilling some part of your soul's purpose and some part of your soul's mission. And it's really funny that I'm asking you about teachers all day today because literally everything else in your aura is indigo blue, which is talking about stewarding teaching, arriving on behalf of the teachers, arriving on behalf of the wisdom keepers, and literally channeling that energy. There's something here that says in order for you to move forward decisively in the way that you want to, you've got to recognize, I think like semi-formally recognize that you are stewarding a body of work and stewarding a wisdom lineage and a lineage of teaching. That's literally what the indigo blue means. And it literally says, it's all around your head. It's around your head, not like crowded around your head. So they're not clamoring inside of your head, but it's like this beautiful vista of like, oh, I'm not actually here on behalf of anything other than to steward the wisdom, right? To steward the wisdom, to bring the wisdom through. The right hand, blue around your right hand, literally says, okay, good. So do something with that. Do something with that. Make something with that. Craft something with that. Form something with that. And then very simply and easy, at the bottom is yellow. At your feet, this is literally your body, your soul, but especially your body and all of your bodies trying to ground the reality from where I sit that the alien ancestors are speaking to you, the ancient star seeds are speaking to you or trying to, the more immediate ancestors are crowding you to be like, we are with you, we are watching you. Do not think you are off purpose. You are on track, you are in line, and we're actually crowding in because we, your immediate ancestors, are not the only one that are invested in this. There are lines and lines and lines and lines and lines and lines of people behind them that are invested in you doing something with the teaching. Now,
Wow.
I think they're just trying to get you to anchor it, because yellow around the root chakra, yellow is the color of learning through conflict and learning through challenges.
That makes sense.
So this literally says that you are struggling to ground the teaching.
Wow.
And it's a challenge to remember the truth of the teaching as you are grounding it. And I think this could, just because of the conversations that we've been having tonight, this could be because of some assessment of what it means to be a student or what it means to be a teacher. When really students and teachers are stewards of the wisdom. They are stewards of the teaching. So what this looks like to me, take one more look because I'm going to save it for you and then get out of there.
Thank you.
What this looks like to me is honestly someone who doesn't need to teach us everything about what you know, but that it's acceptable for you to teach us one thing about what you know, or everything about one thing. So do not, this could look as simple as a 30-minute live stream where you jump on the IG and you show us one of the products in your space and you teach us how to cleanse your aura with it, right? But you teach it, not just the way that you would do it. There's something here that is about fidelity to the wisdom and fidelity to the lineage and fidelity to the teachers who have come before you. Okay, so I would just say here that the challenge is just conflict in trying to anchor this and ground this in really, it's not that you're going too fast for your own good, but it is like, you might be going a little too fast for you to recognize what it is that you have to teach, how simple it is, how straightforward it can be, how grounded it can be. But honestly, I see this as it could bring a little more money into the shop, which nobody's going to poo-poo that these days. But even more importantly, this could be something that happens in your body that makes everything that you've done over the last 5 to 7 years coalesce in a completely different way. Just some kind of just new, fresh energy. Okay, does all that make sense?
It does, yes. Yes, it does. Thank you so much. The grounding is, that's exactly where I need to pay more attention, is like meditation and just, even just a salt bath. I took a salt bath the other day with essential oils and I was just like, oh my God, why don't I do this every day?
Because the reason why is because it feels like it's got to be more complicated than that. And like you have to sort of prove your understanding of the teachings when really we're actually, I'm just saying, like, how did that salt bath work? Did you bless the stuff? Did you just pour it in? What oil did you use? Why did you use that oil? Where does this practice come from? What did it do for you? But even more importantly, you're doing that for yourself so that the yellow at your feet becomes a nice baked clay red. So that it's not like, how do I ground the truth? How do I bring through the truth? How do I bring through the teaching? Am I fucking the teaching up? How do I do the teaching? It's literally like, no, you do whatever you need to do. To anchor and be like, I'm not the teacher, but I am stewarding the teaching with my life, my life. And it's okay for me to feel like I'm teaching because I know I'm not the teacher any more than you are. And yet we both are.
Exactly.
So I really feel like there's something here where just because it's yellow, it's also ego, solar plexus style. So that just indicates to me that you might have just a little resistance around the idea of you being the teacher. That's it.
True that.
Not for me. I've learned so much from you in our time together on this plane. So grateful. Can't wait for it to continue. But in the meantime, let's bring in, oh, you know what? Guests or gifts.
Guests.
That's what I want to do too. Okay, good.
100% guess.
So let's bring in Anna first, or Anna. Let's see.
Ana Dios?
Yes.
Hey, that's my sister.
That's your sister?
We've known each other since like she's my oldest friend.
Oh, the
Uh-huh.
old.
Yes.
in your body.
Hi, buddy.
Over the last
Okay, wait,
5
but
to
I'm-
7
Do
years.
I need to turn off the
coalesce.
YouTube?
You can just mute it. Mute the other one if you can. Will that work? Or just turn the volume down on the YouTube page.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
No, you're perfect. No, this happens all the time. This is very Aquarian, my loves. This is all about sharing the love through the fiber optic cables.
This is amazing. Yay, Anita.
Thank you
Okay.
so much
Hi,
for joining
Hi,
us.
Michael, thank you. Yeah, I've been listening to you for years because Giselle, who I affectionately call Giselita, introduced me to your beautiful work. And you just bring, thank you for the joy and the laughter that you share with the world. Yeah.
It's
So
they're my favorite recipes. I bring them forth whenever possible. Would you like a reading?
I would love a reading.
I mean,
would love a reading.
I have such a big hit for you. It's so much energy along the left side of your body. It has to do with your throat and with your heart, with the décolletage. Yes, so touch that space, honey. Touch it, because this is what's coming up for healing.
Okay.
But the first thing that came through was actually your teeth and your jaws, okay?
Oh.
This is Spirit's way of saying to you, that, this is a very vulnerable position to be in when you open the décolletage in the neck like this, because it says like, no, I actually want you to take a bite out of my neck. Like I actually want a deep and powerful and emotional exchange. But what I would say to you here is like, or are you low-key looking for bloodsuckers, right? To teach you how to sink your teeth into whatever the fuck you want to sink your teeth into, okay? Both things are happening right now, but that's why I give you this whole part of the sternum and the décolletage. But in terms of your life in this moment, it's all about the mandibles, the cheeks, the chewing, like really getting into something. And what it seems like Spirit's saying here is, if there's a contradiction, like it seems like you really want to sink your teeth into something, but there also might be programmed into that intention, or am I just leaving myself exposed to bloodsuckers? Okay. So there's this sense here where it's like, you won't need to expose yourself to bloodsuckers anymore if you pay attention to what you really want to sink your teeth into. And that leads me to believe that, like, even if you think you want something deep, something to really get involved in, something to chew on, something to just make you feel like alive and like an animal, like right? This is actually telling me maybe you just want to be heard, to be of service, and to feel yourself very, 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 very deeply. Okay. Heart, high heart, throat is where I think you want to go. I'm pouring heat out of my ear now, right? Like, I think there's just this urge in the midst of, oh, bless you, spirits. This is coming from your guides. Your guides are saying, yo, whatever grieving practice you have in your back pocket, you got to do some grieving. You got to do some mourning. Those chairs on that lawn were nice to get a sense of how many people we've lost, but my spirits are saying, your spirits are saying, no, you do your own grieving practice. Even if it's very simple, even if it's lighting a candle in a freaking church, go do it. Go do it, because you got to give your body permission to mourn so that your bodies can remember why you're here, why you want to be of service, why you want to be heard. Like, there was just this sense of me is like, it almost feels like you're exposing yourself to vampires because you want action. And again, like, hopefully quarantine and COVID has given you some protection and some space and some clearing and some all of that. So I would just say very lovingly, pay attention to, I would say honor the primary thing, which is that you want fucking action. You want to sink your teeth into something, right? You want to get into it. You want to take big bites and just break it down into smaller parts. And like, that's a healing process, whether it's for yourself or for others. So just be careful that your urge for action and meat doesn't cause you to display yourself in just such a way that you get taken for someone who's got free blood to offer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That completely resonates. Oh my gosh.
Mm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, that resonates in terms of work, my work, but also in terms of like relationships. Yeah.
I think it's across the board.
And the throat is also like speaking your truth, communication. Mm-hmm.
Very much so. And I really, but again, I think that's where the confusion comes in, is there's this urge to have action and to have a certain quality of, and I would say if there's something to second guess, it's don't just default to that, because whatever that urge for action is, has resulted in a lot of blood being drained from you. You know, so that's why I say seek a different intention, like you're saying, Giselle, to speak the truth, to be heard, to feel like my voice has its audience, right? Has the place where it needs to land. Like I'm not just speaking into a vacuum, right? But because I want to be of service, because I can feel what's been lost and what we're losing. You know, it's I really think that if you're not responding to, there's so many reasons to not be responding to the grief and death that we're all facing right now. But if you're not responding at this point, it's probably making you a little crazy. I'm not saying that's happening to you. I'm saying that for everybody else. You know, it's just, it's worth it to, when you want to just like make your money or have your love or live your life. And you're like, why do I feel like I'm going insane? Well, 300,000+ people dead in the United States would be just a great place to start with. Why do I feel like I'm going insane? You know, so I think it's give your body the time to feel and mourn. And then it's almost like you'll be able to lift your head up and look around and be like, wait a minute, I don't want anybody draining my blood. I want to be of service. I want to be heard. Where do I need to be heard? And where can I use my voice to be of service? That would really be in a way that makes me feel very fucking alive and like I'm in the midst of the action, right? Yeah, like I've sunk my teeth into something. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And it resonates so deeply.
Good,
my
my angel.
Better about boundaries and this intent, you know, that need to always want to say yes, because like you said, because I want action, I want to dig my teeth into something. But yeah,
definitely, because if you say yes when you don't really mean it, then you can't blame the people for sucking you dry, because you said yes, you didn't really mean it, and these were part of the rules of engagement. So for sure, the boundaries I think are helpful. But to be really honest, I don't think this is about boundaries here. I think this is about thinking that you're going for what. I think it's just about, like Giselle was saying, like retraining, right? And just noticing that when you think you're going for one thing, it always sort of turns out in a different way, you know? So it's about the retraining of the motivation or the intention from the get-go. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you, Anna.
Love you.
I'll talk to you soon, Anita.
Love you.
Take care, buddies. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, let's see where you're going. Okay. So let's see. Well, I want to just ask you, and then we'll do a couple more of these little guys. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Sue, for asking that. And thank you, RevFem, for sharing. Yes, just so everybody knows, Known to Man, Giselle's store, is at 320 Graham Avenue in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg. What are your hours? When are you open right now?
I'm open every day till Christmas, 1 to 5, but normally I'm open Thursday through Sunday,
Great.
12 to 8, yeah.
But you're open for a run now. That's great.
Yeah, I'm open
Love
for a run.
that. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Everybody can find Giselle at Known to Man BK. Readers, hang out in the room just for another minute. But Giselle, let's bundle some of the deliciousness of what you have gathered for us into our yumminess segment, where we talk about things that are on this earth plane that are uplifting us, making us feel divine. I do just want you to share some of what you got.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Should I do that now?
Yeah, do it now.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I sell in the store are rose hydrosols. And a hydrosol is different than a rose water. The distilling process is really beautiful. It's like copper distilleries, and the amount of roses, the hundreds of pounds of rose leaves that you have to distill in order to get the purity, the essence, is what the hydrosol is. And it's a very delicate process. And so it's, when it's steam distilled, it doesn't, take away the integrity of the medicine of the roses. And so, basically, so I use this really special rose hydrosol. It's organic. And then I do different, essential oils, and so my two favorites and the best sellers there's two. There's one called Shield of Light. And so that's a very protective one. That's a very your mind is overwhelmed, or there's a conversation you just had on the phone, or, whatever it is that's like taking up space in a way that is, negative, or, taking your energy. This you can spray on yourself and face space. It's also a really good toner for the skin. And so the Shield of Light carries, there's juniper berries, there's sage, there's palo santo, there's, a lot of different tree energies, and different traditional uses from different cultures, indigenous cultures, that are used to protect and clean. It's also great before a ritual to kind of clear out the space and things like that.
I was going to say it's perfect too for Jupiter Saturn, because Saturn would be the protective shell, and then that rose is so heart opening and expansive.
So heart opening.
To protect and expand is everything. To contract and expand at the same time is how we've been thinking about the Jupiter Saturn conjunction. So great medicine for that.
And the rose, yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because the rose is so nurturing. It's so heart, and that's where heart space comes in. Heart space is the first one I ever made, and I made it for myself when a dear friend of mine passed away. So it was made for that grieving process.
Yeah.
So whenever people are going through breakups, or any major shifts, or anything like that, crossroads style situation that's heart oriented, heart centered. The heart space is fantastic.
I love this. And we often recommend to people to do grieving practices, which is when you give yourself 5, 10, 15 minutes to feel all of the sad feelings and the grieving feelings. But it's a beautiful thing where if you light a candle for yourself, take some deep breaths, and then initiate with a spritz of this stuff, it causes your heart to open in maybe just gentle enough of a way that the tears can then flow.
Yes.
So even really good for a grieving ritual, for when you want to feel the things that you don't necessarily want to feel.
Absolutely. And also on our personal and collectively, the heart space, because we're all grieving in some way. Personally and collectively, what's happening. So the heart space is really wonderful. I also carry both of these in an ointment and oil. And so those are great, because you could put them in your bath. You can add them to other, if you have body oil, you can add it to the body oil, and they're very concentrated. So I sell both of those also in the ointments, the Shield of Light and the heart space. And I ship and I mail, and they're both 24.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Major.
Another one that I really love is tree energy. This in Causa, my friend's company, they're hand rolled tree resin incense. It's kind of always what I have burning in the store. And this has, it's really good for anxiety, and depression, things like this. It's really good for the nervous system. It's like the tree energy where it's very grounding, earthing, very, and so I like to do this at the end of the day, kind of before I go to bed, and kind of just before I go to sleep. And
you're reminding me of this other definition of healing too, which is a really great healer will not go in trying to change anything, but will kind of know the work is done when even just one thing has shifted ever so slightly, you know, and as we all are our greatest healers, it's, I think, important to remember. I did a live earlier today with some friends who have a witch store in Cali, and we were talking about how kitchen witchery is such a great thing, because who doesn't love the smell of spices when you walk into a space? But when you empower or charge those different things and put them into your food with an intention, then you get that intention when you eat. So I think this is just so great, where I've had moments of anxiety during all of this where, like, sure, you could just light the incense to make the room smell nice, but if you know the tree that's in it, the properties that are with it, you set the intention where you're like, you check in, how am I? I feel very fucking anxious. I could use a little bit of this rolled tree resin.
For sure.
And it just shifts everything. And then low key, high key, you're healed.
It really does. Exactly. And what you're saying is so important, because like a glass of water is just a glass of water. But if you pray to the water, the Japanese, I can't remember his name, he did the studies of how literally it physically changes the, you know, so it's like the context of like a candle. We can light a candle, but we can light it with the intention and the prayer, and it changes everything.
And why that's what the solstice reveals to us is that because you take everything else away and the light remains. The light is still there. The love is still there. The truth is still there. So we must never forget our power, right? In changing things. That's magic. That's healing. That's the road. That's the journey. That's farming, you know.
In the Witoto culture, they have a story of the darkest night. And the darkest night, when you light a torch, when you light your light on the darkest hour in the darkest night, you know, whatever we may be going through emotionally or physically. So the torch, it doesn't illuminate what's way ahead, and it doesn't illuminate what's far behind. It illuminates exactly the step that you're taking in front. And it illuminates exactly the moment that you're in. And so that is like the energy of this, of being in the darkest hour, in the darkest moment, to light that intention with being able to see and have the vision and the wisdom of exactly what is present in your life and what is to be received, you know? So not to attach to something else in the future or to be clinging to something in the past, but illuminating what is the here and now.
So perfect. I really hope you guys run with that tomorrow when you do your solstice rituals, because it's really, that's all you need. That's just that image right there is all you need. And then sit with that and honor it and be very fucking grateful, because if you can see that darkness and that one little light in that darkness is a pile of riches, you will never be poor a day in your life.
And to ask, even if the most difficult is the deeper and the most difficult, it's because it's the most important. You know, and the most, that's like the transmutation points in nature, you know, when it's the fires on the water and it gets to that point where it becomes steam, you know, it's like we need to get to these, sometimes these transmutation points can seem like really like you feel the energy of it. Like, I don't know if I could hold this. I can never deal with this. And when you trust it and you give it that space to be what it needs to be, that's when it transmutes. That's another example of nature, you know.
So perfect. And it just in the transmutation vein of things, that's tomorrow is these planets conjuncting each other in an air sign right as the sun shifts into an earth sign. So it is kind of like a pulling apart in a weird way. But also, it's what's great about that tree incense that you're talking about is that if you get grounded in this moment and simplify, then you're really going to be prepared for whatever this new era of Aquarius brings us. You know, no matter how fast-paced everything gets. If you are good with next to nothing at all, then you will have everything you need.
Yes. And even if we've lost all our leaves and we're carrying the weight of the snow and we're dealing with the freaking winds, our roots are getting stronger.
And our titties are out.
We're fortifying the spirit, damn it.
Well, this is really good. I want to bring our one last guest in, or one last caller in before we just wrap up here.
Amazing.
And then we'll see. So John, you're coming in. Hey, John. Let's see. Got John in the Zoom room.
This is so fun. I'm having so much fun. I can't see who's on right now, but thank you everybody for being here and for showing up. It's such an honor for me to be sharing space with you, Mikey.
Oh, it's my pleasure and my honor too. I've been I've been clocking everybody in over on YouTube, and they're commenting and they're sharing, and man, my homies over here, you guys are great. It really means a lot. They're giving out your freaking address. That's supposed to be my job, but that's what
Yay!
great. Hey, John.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, really appreciate what you guys are doing.
It's great to have you. So do you have a question? Is there anything you want to ask or anything you're interested in today, or where are we at?
Yeah, I'm interested right now. I decided I'm going to be moving at the beginning of the year, but I don't really know where yet. So I have a short time to figure that out.
Okay. I think it's great. I think there's two things that are going on here. The first thing that I would say to you that you want to check in with is just check your breathing, right? It literally, my energy goes immediately to your diaphragm and to your guts and to your heart. So there's two things that are going on where I feel like that energy of the diaphragm is, can I relax enough to take in all that life has to offer? Okay. So there's a certain part here, which is I feel like you've been through changes like this in your life before, where you're like, all right, you know what? Enough's enough. Fuck this. I'm doing it. We're doing this. We're going. And what I would say to you here is just make sure that even if this choice is like other choices that you've taken before, make sure that you don't just do it habitually. Okay, make sure that you're not just like, well, I've made the decision now, so now we're good to go. Okay, there's this question of following a star. So just because we're talking about the big Jupiter-Saturn conjunction tomorrow, which like as of today and yesterday I was reading, like some astronomers think that it might have been what people thought was the Star of Bethlehem was actually the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction.
I've heard that.
I would honestly say, John, tomorrow when the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction happens, it's very fucking important for you to see it, okay? It's very important for you to look for it. And then I'm not sure where you are, but I got to do my job here and tell you, your spirits are saying that you want to head in the direction of that star. No joke, full T, okay? So what that means, that could mean a lot of different things because the world's round. So eventually you're going to get back to where you came from, but I think what it means to me is don't just default to the direction you think you need to go in. You want to actually look up and out, rise your horizons. But I do actually think there's a message in here, which is like, yeah, but also like where you want to land is on the other side of wherever that alignment is relative to you. I think that's very funny. But then the other thing here is just, I think that what can happen is that like whenever you make big changes and transitions like this in your life, the way in which you do these decisions habitually can cause you to kind of lose focus. And, nobody likes moving. It's complicated, but I almost feel like you're in the middle of moving long before you've moved, right? So it ends up kind of just all feeling very dramatic, all feeling very intense and like super at cross purposes with yourself and like all this stuff. And yet like you just did the hardest work where you come on here to us randos and you're like, I'm moving in the beginning of the year. How's that gonna go? Like that's the hardest thing. 9 times out of 10 when people come on to one of the shows that I'm doing and are talking about moving, they're only asking about moving because they don't want to deal with the rest of their shit in their life in one way or another. And it's like, no, moving's not going to help you like deal with anything. So don't do that. But I was going to say to you, I don't think that's what's happening now, but I kind of do think that's what's happening now with you. And I also kind of think that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you've been through this before. It could be a little bit of a reaction, but Mikey's heart to you doesn't feel like you're doing this for the wrong reasons. But as Giselle and I have been saying all night, doesn't matter what we know about your existence. You've got to revisit this every step of the way to make sure that your choices are being made with integrity. Because I really feel like it's very important how you leave the space you're in. It's very important that you write a little thank you note to the mail carrier who's carried your shit for the last 5 years. It's like to really leave with integrity and impeccability, I think is the thing that doesn't necessarily get to happen to you when you're in the midst of drama and when you're at cross purposes. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and I really think in another way, are you with anybody? Are you moving with someone?
No.
Okay, good. Because it's gonna feel really different. Like I really think, I feel really good things about this for you. And I feel like you've got a lucky streak that you're on. Like I feel like there's some luck coming your way. And I feel like it could even land you with a partner, but most likely it will land you with someone who causes the same problems that other people have caused you in the past. But this time you're gonna call bullshit and be like, nope, I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing this again. And then this could actually become a partner, right? Or else it'll end and like another partner will come along. But I feel like there's love here for you. And then I want to leave you with this last thing about luck. I pulled a card for you and it's literally lucky. He's lucky, everyone. He's very lucky. What I think that means is bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. So don't move. If you have plans, and like, I can't even believe I'm saying this to you during a pandemic, but I got to say it to you during the pandemic. Obviously budget, but like if you have plans, if you have a grand design to move and land somewhere, don't go to the most ratchet place that you can possibly find because you feel that's what you deserve because you're just fucking, getting going. It's literally like, give yourself what you need and act like where you land, things are going to work out. You see? So I don't think this means like get the really, really big house, but like it does mean like don't live next to the toxic waste dump if that's possible. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's not possible, right? Plenty of people live in shitty fucking areas. But I think in this case with you, it's really important that you act as though it's going to work out. Okay.
Gotcha.
Feeling also the process of simplification and surrender and like the unclutter, the letting go is a beautiful process,
Perfect. And I would say, yes, I think that's really great. And yeah, use tools. I love that, Giselle. That's like opens up a whole nother vein of things. I'm just seeing all the incenses you just showed, sprays, like work with your energy, work with grounding, work with clearing your field, work with opening your heart, like get ready, because otherwise you're going to end up making this whole transition through, sorry, but like a load of bullshit from the past. It's just like how you've always done it.
And and it doesn't have to be complicated. Just that expression itself of like, I want to open my heart, the power of that. Because we could get into the question of how do we do that? But really just the actual saying of it, our spirit hears that, And the power of that is not to go, be underestimated.
And the simplicity of calling it, literally, how right before you hit a home run, you point all the way out to the outfield, because that's where it's going to go. Point at that morning star. I think that's what that star analogy was about. Point at the star. Be like, higher, high or higher. That's where I'm going. That's what I'm doing. And it's not fucking complicated. And I'm going to land. It's going to be like this. And it's all good. So, but by way of directionality, pay attention to the direction that those stars are in. Okay. All right.
I love that image. Thank you.
You're so.
Good luck with the move.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Have a beautiful night.
Peace.
Peace.
One thing I wanted to mention really quick,
Please.
you had mentioned about one of the things about saying that I am not this, I am not that, and kind of like simplifying it to, but what I am. The Witoto elder that I sit with, Isaias, he says it's always very important to counterbalance the things if we're observing something and we say, I don't want that, I don't want this, to always counterbalance it by saying and mentioning what you do want and what you do wish and what you are, and also the power of language, and to be very aware of what we say to ourselves, and like the implications of language are really powerful, and so I was speaking to a friend the other day and just listening to for example, like saying I am depressed, rather than I feel depressed.
Depression, right.
And I want to be open to
how I can balance this, or what I can, and sometimes it is clinical, but the fact that we're reframing it in a positive way, in a way that there's openness to observe it from a different angle of, rather than just being it, because telling ourselves is a positive thing, and aids in the healing, regardless of whether or not you need medication. It's still like a relationship with how we see ourselves.
Absolutely. And also, especially if something's clinical, and especially if there's a whole lot of chemicals that are going on, it helps to remember that you're not powerless to your biochemistry by coming up with other energetic treatments. And something I think that's helpful whenever I'm teaching a class is to remind everybody that if you want to make sense of everything, just consider everything in terms of vibration and frequency, right? So that, sure, maybe the chemicals in my brain have a very strong frequency, but the medication that I'm taking has an even stronger frequency. And then if I add some extra zhuzh based on what I eat or what I do or what I say, the spells that I cast with my words, then we start conducting a little symphony, as opposed to just like a
exactly. And it's supportive. It's supporting that healing process,
which is holistic and inclusive.
For sure.
Oh, my love. Thank you so much for this beautiful, beautiful evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. You are so delicious. Everyone, please reach out to Giselle if you want to pick up any of the gifts that you saw today. Run by there if you are in Williamsburg. Also, if you want to do any readings with Edible Spirit, head to EdibleSpirit.com. We're doing a holiday tarot special. We're doing channeled readings. We're doing all sorts of stuff over there on EdibleSpirit.com. Your foodie scopes will be out in another week or so. But until next time, we love you. You are so delicious. Thank you, my angel.
Yes. And I think for what food I am, I thought about it, and I think I'm cinnamon.
Oh, no, it's so funny because cinnamon was what I was talking about earlier today. You are cinnamon. I love it because they were also talking about cassia versus canela. That canela is a little thinner and like a little sweeter and smokier, but cassia is un poco maduro. But also by way of metaphysical properties, prosperity, protection, sweetness, warmth. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect
circulation. It's my sugar substitute.
Brilliant. It's a really good one. I love that. So good, my sweet, sweet angel.
I love you.
Love you too. Let's just play everybody out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Oh, P.S. Remember, Edible Spirit Hour will be dark. We're not going to have an episode next week. We will see you again in the new year, but we will be all over the socials, and you can always email us or DM us any way you like. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us for this installment. We will see you next time.